Now I've got to say, the Primal Dragon update looked to be one of the most exciting updates that we've seen that could potentially release in a long time. With an upgrade to Summoning Eyes basically allowing you to spawn Primal Dragons, a really cool looking new dragon set, and much more. Honestly, I've got to say, it's probably the main update that I've been looking forward to recently. Now, recently there was a new update in Skyblock, I'm sure you're pretty much all aware. It was the Better Maze update, and it's really cool. It's a really nice update. I've got nothing bad to say about it at all. But in the forums post that outlines everything that has been changed and implemented into the game, there's a tiny line of text right at the bottom, under Future Plans then Primal Dragons, which is interesting. While playtesting this update on Alpha, we ran into many large-scale performance issues. Unfortunately, we have shelved this update for the time being due to these issues. Now, it's very short and precise, and it doesn't give a massive amount of information. I guess it just gives what we need to know, and we're not really going to be seeing it anytime soon. But it kind of makes sense, because sometimes when you're in the end and a dragon spawns, the server can kind of die. You see, usually you should be at around about 20 TPS, and Hypixel Skyblock for a while now has had a pretty major TPS issue. Now, TPS impacts the smoothness of the game and responsiveness. Have you ever experienced pretty long-lasting lag spikes in Hypixel Skyblock and you thought, oh, maybe it's just my internet, but everything else is kind of running fine, it just seems to be your connection to Hypixel? Now, the likelihood is that was probably just bad TPS, and it impacts the end and the Crimson Isles mainly. Now, in the end, at one given time, you could potentially have a dragon or an Endstone Protector, and then also multiple Void Gloom Slayers going on. It's a lot for the server to handle, and therefore makes for a pretty, let's say, not smooth experience. And it seems like the Primal Dragons were kind of just the cherry on top of the cake. But having said that, there was so many more features in that update that would be really cool, even without Primal Dragons. Now, before we get into those, it's important to mention that with the Primal Dragon update, there was a potential for multiple dragons to be spawned at once. If the server already struggles with one dragon and a few Ender Slayer bosses, then I guess 3 or 4 dragons at once, it is going to kill it. That was on a small scale, and imagine it on a larger scale. Now, let's get into what we're missing. But before we do, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITROS, it gets yourself 5% off. You should subscribe to the channel. If you watch the videos and you haven't subscribed, please make sure to do so. You should join the Discord server, it's linked in the description of this video. We offer Slayers and Dungeon carries, so if you need carries and want to carry and make some coins, make sure to join. Now, of course, we had Awakened Summoning Eyes. This was basically just an upgraded version of a regular Summoning Eye that allowed you to spawn Primal Dragons. We also had the Primal Dragon Egg, which made it so you could upgrade the Ender Dragon pet to Mythic, which is really cool. And then, of course, we had the Primal Dragon Armor that was chopped and changed as the alphas progressed, basically because it was really OP at one point. We had the Blade of Dragonfire, which is an upgrade to the aspects of the dragons. Now, like I mentioned before, it said the update had been shelved. Well, it said Primal Dragons have been shelved. And I assume that also probably means that Primal Dragon Armor is shelved. Well, does that mean that everything else is shelved, such as, well, the upgrade to, well, the Mythic Ender Dragon? Because it looks really cool. However, it was a drop from Primal Dragons. The concept of the update is really cool. However, if they can't make it work, then would it not just make more sense to make the Primal Dragon just one dragon rather than the possibility of 4? I guess that's probably where the main kind of performance issues came about, right? I would assume, I might not be right. Now, a little bit more on this Ender Dragon pet. Well, what exactly did it do? Well, it was just like a legendary Ender Dragon pet. However, there was a few extra perks. Well, first of all, it would now buff the Blade of Dragonfire, and the Ancestral perk means that it grants +2 strength for every unique pet that you own. Now, this is very interesting because, you know, sure, pet score. But other than just simply pet score and I guess Skyblock XP, there was no other reward for having, that many pets. And there are quite a few unique pets in the game, so if that was something to go for, that would be a massive buff in strength, making it more comparable to the Golden Dragon, even though, if I do remember correctly from my testing, I don't think it was quite as good, even with the buff. Yeah, so using the Ender Dragon pet, we were dealing around about 520k damage. This is with a Blade of Dragonfire and Primal Dragon Armor. And then switching to a G-Drag, I was dealing 590, 570, 580, pretty substantially more. That was level 200 G-Drag with a bill in the bank compared to the mythic level 100 Ender Dragon pet. This was with a pretty much completely full pet menu as well. I think I was missing maybe 1 or 2 pets. So with our Ender Dragon equipped in the end, we were dealing around about 1 million damage, give or take. And then with G-Drag, we were dealing substantially less damage, around about 750k, as opposed to 1 million. Of course, the Ender Dragon pet means that it performs substantially better in the end than it does outside of the end, meaning that in the end, the Mythic Ender Dragon was substantially better than the G-Drag, and I guess somewhat comparable, but not quite as good out of the end. What I'm trying to say is that this pet would really make a difference, and would be really, really cool. However, the drop chances for that pet were ridiculously, ridiculously low, but obviously, when it's on the alpha, everything's subject to change. For example, this entire update. At the end of the day, the alpha is simply just a test server. And when something's on the alpha, it's never guaranteed that it's going to release, and it's never guaranteed that if it does release, it's going to release as it was on the alpha. But here's the thing. What's really a little bit confusing, not confusing, but what's surprising, is that majority of the time when something goes on the alpha, it is probably altered and then released. There have been some examples in the past where updates have been completely and utterly forgotten about because it turns out they just weren't a good idea. For instance, a good few months back, there was an update which basically meant that you could put attributes on any piece of armor, not just armor introduced when the Crimson Owls were introduced, like, you know, Aurora, Crimson, Fervor, and so on. But they made it so that you could literally just get like your Necron's chestplate and potentially put Dominance on it if you wanted, or Dominance and Vitality, or whatever you want. That same update made it so you could also put any attributes that you want on any weapon. It was tested on the alpha for probably like a good few days or a week, but never to be seen ever again. There was also an update on the alpha where if you came to this house here, there was a different NPC in there, or it might even have been the same NPC, but actually with a purpose. And basically, you could transfuse abilities from one weapon to another. It turned out that it basically made it so there was no point in actually having weapons, but just abilities put onto basically a shell of a weapon. It just didn't really work, and that was kind of on the alpha for a few days or a week and was never seen ever again. But these were all pretty... Well, they wouldn't have been minor updates if they released, but to have on the alpha, they were relatively minor. They were more just ideas rather than full-on developed updates, but the Primal Dragon update really is something completely different, and it's something that a lot of work must have actually gone into. Creating a whole new armor set, modeling the armor set, coming up with the idea for the Primal Dragons, it's just not a small update, and it's just very, very surprising for them just to completely shelve it and not change it so it works. And I get that maybe some of the issues that they're facing are not issues that they can fix, but surely that they could adapt. You know, items like the Primal Dragon armor, initially when the alpha first released, it was completely and utterly broken. It was too overpowered. It would have been a really expensive armor set, but still seemed pretty interesting and pretty cool. It would have given a lot more reason, and people would have had a lot more intent when actually doing dragons, other than just to get an Ender Dragon pet. There's other good things that you could potentially get, and that's the gamble. Now, in the recent patch notes, it might seem really off topic initially, but we'll get to it. Underneath the Primal Dragons section, there's a bit that says foraging and hunting, and it's basically them pushing back the foraging update, saying that they want to develop the hunting skill first and release them both alongside each other. But the main issue they're having with foraging is that they're having some technical difficulties with the latest versions of Minecraft, which means to me, or at least it makes me think, that when they have the idea of putting the foraging update onto a new version of Minecraft, it looks like they probably are going to go ahead and do that, otherwise there would not really be any reason for them to mention difficulties with latest versions. Now, this might be a bit of a leap, and they've said they've shelved the Primal Dragon update. It doesn't say they've completely discarded it. And it's clear that the reason that it says right here, performance issues. That's the reason why they're not able to do it at the moment. However, performance on a newer version of Minecraft would be substantially better. The game would be able to handle more. Hypixel discussed the possibility of not just moving the Foraging Island over to a new version of Minecraft, but the whole of Skyblock and potentially the whole of Hypixel. Now, that would take an immense amount of work. But ultimately, especially for Skyblock, it would make the game better. It just would. If they're able to find a way to implement 1.8.9 combat into 1.21, then it would be perfect. So maybe the Primal Dragon update isn't gone forever, but maybe we'll see it in the future. In the future when Skyblock isn't in 1.8.9, but maybe potentially in a later version of Minecraft. Could be a bit of a leap. However, it might just be that. I also could be completely wrong. I'm just being hopeful because I like the Primal Dragon update. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think of the Primal Dragon update, Primal Dragons, the Mythic Ender Dragon pet and Primal Dragon armor? Is it something that you would have liked to see come into the game? Maybe if it's not now, maybe in the future. And do you think them saying they've shelved the Primal Dragon update means that it's gone forever, or do you think we'll see it in the future? Anyway, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.
gun ain't on my shirt, put the tag